Welcome to the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. Are you over 40 and tired of struggling with your weight, dieting, and constantly feeling like you're starting over with nutrition and fitness? Do you wish you had more energy? Do you want to lose weight and finally keep it off for good? I'm Lil, a certified nutrition coach and former registered nurse. I too have been there, and at the age of 44, I decided I was done with fad diets and chasing a lower number on the scale. I was so tired of constantly starting over and wondering why I couldn't get lasting results. I became a nutrition coach and created the Feel Your Best formula for women who want to build muscle, lose fat, and keep it off for good. If you're ready to build a better relationship with food, the scale, and your body, let's build your formula for feeling your best. If you're new here, make sure to check the episode details for the link to my newbie starter guide. You'll receive an email straight to your inbox with everything you need to start building your Feel Your Best formula. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hello, welcome to episode 26. This is the Feel Your Best Formula podcast, and I'm Lil, and I'm excited to dive into today's topic. I will say treading the line between sharing my own experiences and also coaching others can be a fine line, and it's really important to know that we're all different and take our own unique background, history, and experiences into account when making a plan. And I kind of hesitated sharing this at first just because, this is where I am in the process and it's been so enjoyable and freeing. I ultimately decided I had to talk about it with you, but I think it can be really easy to compare ourselves and, struggle with feeling like we should be further ahead in the process or we should be at a certain goal. And I will just remind you that you are exactly where you're supposed to be right now. And there's always a lesson if we are not where we want to be. There's a lesson to be learned. There is growth to be made. And hopefully listening to this podcast today, you can, take a look inside yourself. And if any of this resonates with you, it can help you move forward with confidence. That's always what I want to impart with my podcast episodes is helping you gain more confidence in the choices you make, in the decisions you make, and not feel like you just have to do something because you see someone talk about it on social media, or you feel pressured to do something because, your neighbor, your sister, your best friend is doing something. And creating your formula for feeling your best has to be for you. It has to be unique to you, and it can't be cookie cutter of what anyone else is doing. And I'm sharing my experience because let that just be an example to you, but your experience is going to be your own experience. And when I work with my clients, I don't ever expect them to have the same exact thoughts, feelings, experiences that I have. But sometimes it is important to share, our own personal journey with others so that they can use that information, that story, and the things that they can learn from it to then move forward in their own journey. Now, if you listen to last week's episode where I talked about the damage of constant dieting, years and years of dieting, and how that can be harmful, and then instead deciding to nourish your body while not losing weight, that can be a really important step in healing your relationship with food, healing your relationship with your body. And it's so important to me to share that message because that's exactly what I did over the past 18 months or so was just work on that and forget about losing weight, and instead just learning using macros to fuel my body, nourish my body, and just know that I was giving my body exactly what it needed for where it was. And I gave up all dieting for 18 months. And I just decided I had to do things differently, and the results have been life-changing. So I finally got to a point where when we were on vacation that I said, when we go home, I am ready to do a fat loss phase and do a little deficit and cut my calories a little bit and just take off some body fat and just see how it goes. And it's been about a couple weeks at the time you're listening to this where I'm intentionally cutting about 300 calories per day from my macro plan. I've also made sure to increase my protein while I'm also doing a weightlifting workout, as I always do. I'm continuing to do a weightlifting program while I'm doing this cut. And let me be clear, this is after over 18 months of following macros and maintaining my weight. I was the exact same weight, give or take 2 to 5 pounds for almost the last 2 years. And it was a heavier weight than I had been. The only time I've seen this number on the scale was during my pregnancies, and 15 pounds heavier than I was 2 years ago. So I decided to maintain my weight at my heaviest weight that I have been and work on my relationship with my body, my relationship with food, really work on gaining muscle and doing things so differently than I had ever done them before. And that's because I had always tried to lose weight and work out at the same time by cutting calories and also working out. And it's really hard to build muscle when you're cutting calories at the same time. And now that I am a certified nutrition coach, I understand how that system works in our bodies. And I just decided that was the priority for me to get stronger, build muscle. And I'll go back in time a little bit and tell you where I was. So in the end of 2020 leading into 2021, so this was October 2020, I bent over to get the mail one day. And if you've ever people like to say, thrown your back out. Basically, you bend over to do something and life is just not the same. Shooting excruciating pain down my sciatic nerve. I hobbled back inside. I could barely walk. I was crying. The pain was so intense. And I'm not someone, I did have both of my kids intentionally without pain medication and stuff. I'll pick up hot pans. I have a pretty high pain tolerance, and it was excruciating. And I went and got on the couch, and I was on that couch for the better part of 3 months. I did physical therapy, finally got an MRI, and they said, you have arthritis, and it had just flared up so badly. And for whatever reason, that picking up the mail had thrown me into this horrible space where I was just in awful pain. And the only thing I could really do was rest and do my physical therapy. And I gained weight because I was on the couch. It wasn't a ton of weight. It was maybe about 10 pounds at that time, but I couldn't work out. I wasn't eating great. I got, I'm not going to say I had depression, but it was a big downer when you're used to being a very, very busy person and then you're sidelined. So it wasn't until my back started finally feeling better, I decided, okay, I need to start working out again. I need to eat better. And I really dove into a diet program, and I went in 110% because I felt so crappy. I said, I need to lose weight. I need to start to get stronger again. I need to do all these things. And, it worked. I say that with air quotes around it because I lost a ton of weight really quickly. And in a lot of ways, it was a good program for me at the time. But when I found myself in situations where I couldn't follow the food rules, and honestly, it had me so tired of one of the main tenets of that program is you have to drink a ton of water, you have to eat a ton of veggies, and I just got tired of it. It was kind of exhausting, and I just realized it wasn't sustainable. And when I started feeling better, it was right immediately after I started feeling better that my husband had his stroke, and then my father-in-law had his bone marrow transplant, and all this stuff around me just was spiraling. And it just was so hard for me to stay on track with that food program that it calls itself flexible, but there's a lot of rules around it as far as what foods you can and can't eat, and eating a lot of veggies and not having carbs at dinner. And it just didn't work for me when I was in, survival mode with so many things going on, with my family, still trying to come back from my back pain. And it was just a lot, and I could not stick with it. And one of the main issues with it was not enough structure. And by that, I mean, it was a lot of figuring things out on your own, not really specifically being told exactly how much of what I should be eating, and it prioritized veggies instead of protein, which now I realize I really need to prioritize protein, then add in the veggies and the carbs to make sure that I'm giving my body the protein it needs for building and keeping the muscle that I build. So I really prefer something that I like to call structured freedom, where I have the structure, the scaffolding of my macros goals, and then the freedom of choosing the foods I enjoy to hit those goals instead of feeling restricted, instead of feeling like there's these rules around when and I can or cannot eat carbs, or saying that having a brownie is silly, and all these sort of rules. It's just sort of, I really am learning how to just see food for what it is and the nutrients that it's providing for my body, and or the fact that it's really enjoyable and it makes me happy to eat it. And that's really all food is, yet putting names, rules, and all this extra labels on food when you're following diets that try to make things cutesy and stuff like that, it just wasn't the right fit for me at all. So I took those 18 months of learning how to eat, what foods I enjoyed. So basically, I don't want to confuse you. When I realized that diet just was not working for me, I just said, forget it, I'm done. And I started really questioning everything I had been doing. And that's when I started on this path. Another friend and I started looking into macros together. I started looking into more weightlifting. I started following different people on Instagram. And ultimately, I went down the path where I decided to become a certified nutrition coach, because I finally understood what that formula for success looked like, and I wanted to help others do the same. So over a period of about 18 months, where I just really learned how to eat, what foods I enjoyed, what treats were #worth it for me, and how I could enjoy those treats and learn how to enjoy them without binging on them, because I used to be someone who would have binge eating episodes where I would eat an entire sleeve of cookies or an entire pint of ice cream, because you just have that feeling that you're not going to be able to have it when you are being good on your diet. So you got to get it all in while you can. And that's a really disordered way of approaching your food choices. So I really craved balance, and I I made the conscious decision to figure this out without having the added stress of losing weight and trying to watch the scale go down. And this was after months of being on a diet where you are obsessed with the scale, you're going to get on it every day. And really the only success is seeing the scale go down, even though you understand there's fluctuations. The goal is to be losing weight on that diet. And I just said, forget it. I can't do this anymore. So I'll be honest and say, of course, not everyone's the same. We all have different, backgrounds and experiences that we're coming into. Like today, you are, the accumulation of everything you've experienced in your life. And that's going to be different from the person sitting next to you. But I just wanted to share some food for thought and say, if you can't check the box of the majority of these items that I'm going to talk about that are the signs you are ready to start a fat loss phase, because I don't really believe that you should get on a diet or start trying to lose weight if you cannot check the boxes on these items. With, of course, always having the caveat here that this is assuming that even if you are in a space where, yes, you would like to lose weight, but that you don't have any underlying health issues that are related to excess body fat and that your physician is concerned about. You should be working with your physician if you have diabetes, hypertension, high cholesterol, any of those issues. Your physician should be part of your conversation around weight loss, and that might be something that you do need to prioritize. But even if you have a few extra pounds on you, jumping right into a diet plan just because you feel like you should isn't necessarily going to set you up for success. So let's talk about the signs that you are most likely going to be successful at fat loss and then maintaining it if this is true if these things are true for you. So here are 8 signs that you might be ready physically and mentally to start losing some weight. Now, number 1, motivation. We all know that motivation is fleeting, but I think that we are all definitely motivated to get started when we want to make some change. And capitalizing on that motivation, feeling like you're ready to commit to making a change and you're excited to learn, you're excited to make the investment, maybe you're excited to go buy some new kitchen tools, you're excited to buy some new cookbooks, you're excited to look at some new websites, and you're really willing to put in the effort to reach your goals, and understanding that motivation is fleeting and that to ultimately be successful is really about the commitment. But motivation is really great when you're getting started. That's what, gets you so excited to do all these new things, to learn new things, and it's a great piece of the puzzle. If you are not motivated at all and you have a really negative attitude and you don't feel like taking 5 extra minutes to, research something new in the direction you're going, you can't bring yourself to open the website of the plan that you're following, then things are going to be really hard for you. And that's probably a sign that you aren't genuinely ready deep inside yourself. Now, number 2, it's also really important that you fully understand the process with which you're going to go into the calorie deficit. And this is where ideally you've invested the time to understand how to eat, to nourish your body, where you're going to be cutting those calories, how you're going to cut those calories, how you can include your favorite foods in the process, and really not approach it with an all or nothing attitude, but instead understanding how your body works, how food works in your body, and just having a really good comprehension of what this is going to look like for you. It's not going to be a big surprise. You're going to anticipate that there are going to be periods where you may be a little bit hungry, and you can also approach those struggles with a plan. Now, number 3, it's really important that you have a realistic expectation about, again, what it's going to take. You understand that you're going to be cutting those calories. You understand it's going to take time and effort, that there's going to be some sacrifice in the process. And maybe that if it becomes too much for you, that you can take a break. You don't have to stay continuously in this deficit until you reach the ultimate goal. You might need to take a little break and go into maintenance for a bit. Say your ultimate goal is to lose 30 pounds and you work really hard, you get 10 pounds off, but you're just feeling really stressed by the process and you're starting to feel yourself pulled back by old habits. And that would be a time when, if I was your coach, I would say to you, this is really too much right now. Let's just enjoy a little bit of time in maintenance. And then when we're ready, we can go and tackle the next 10 pounds and see how that feels. And understanding that you have that control and you don't just have to be continuously on a diet until you reach that weight that you think is your goal. I would also suggest planning to go into maintenance during a vacation, or if something comes up like a family emergency, then plan to go into maintenance during that time, where your maintenance calories are going to be easier to maintain. They're going to be higher. You're going to be eating more food than you are in your deficit, and it's going to be easier to stay where you are than continuing to lose weight, but it's also going to help you because you're not going to be gaining weight. It's not that all or nothing attitude. Number 4, having a positive mindset. You have to have a positive attitude about what you're embarking on and see this as an opportunity for self-improvement, to help yourself physically, mentally, and understanding it's not going to be, that it's not going to be a straight line, that there's going to be bumps in the road, but trusting the process and having a solution-focused attitude when something comes up that you're struggling with, approaching it with the attitude that you're going to figure out how to make it work. You are not going to just throw in the towel, and continuing to have that positive outlook that you are worth it, that putting in the effort is worth it, and that there's always a solution. Number 5, willingness to make changes. You're open to making changes in your diet and lifestyle so that you can support those weight loss goals. And again, understanding that these changes might look like a sacrifice, and it's about choices. And sometimes you have to choose things that are better for you in the long run rather than choosing what you think you want in the short term, whether it comes to food, whether it comes to who you're spending time with. If you know that one group of friends is going to be pressuring you to have drinks, have desserts, and, go back into all those habits that got you where you don't want to be, then maybe you have to make the choice to not hang out with those people for a while until you feel more confident in your habits where you can say no and not feel pressured. And again, I'm really hoping that you've created a strong foundation in your eating plan. So when you work with me, we work on this foundation first of understanding how to nourish your body and then deciding when you're ready to tackle fat loss. Number 6 is a support system. And you should really have some sort of support system in place. It's really hard to go it alone, whether you join a Facebook community or you hire someone like me, or you have friends, family who are genuinely going to help you stay on track and provide encouragement along the way. It is so much better to have someone else to rely on rather than just trying to do things on your own. But I've shared here before that sometimes your spouse, your partner, your best friend, your family member, your sister, your mom are actually really terrible accountability partners. And if that's someone that was part of your experience in getting where you don't want to be, if they are your drinking buddy, your eating buddy, your excuses buddy, then they're probably not going to be the best accountability partner for you. So be honest, be aware, and advocate for yourself, and make sure that you're choosing the right support system. Hiring a coach like me or someone else in a professional capacity is usually a better choice than going it alone, because if you're paying someone to hold you accountable and you are going to show up for them differently than you're going to show up for your sister, your partner, and people like that, because you're putting the investment in, you're saying, I am serious about this. And it's also not really fair to put someone else in that position of holding you accountable if that isn't really their job. So this is something you're going to have to think about. You may kiss a few frogs along the way and make some choices for your support system that you realize in the long run aren't really the best, but keep trying, see what works for you. And if you have not yet listened to my episode on self-accountability and why that's really the most important form of accountability, then definitely go and listen to it. And we'll make sure to put in the show notes, how you can directly listen to that exact episode, because at the end of the day, yes, it's great to have a support system, but it's up to you. No one else has to live with your choices except for you. Okay, number 7. This one's really, really important. And I feel like a lot of people skip the step, and it's really going to trip you up if you do not address this. And that is being aware of triggers and any underlying emotional or mental health issues. Now, triggers could be people. I have a friend whose mom is a huge trigger for her, and she knows every time she spends time with her that she's going to be tempted to eat an entire sleeve of cookies, and she just has a very difficult relationship with her mother. And she has really just learned that she has to prepare herself mentally if she's going to spend time with her mother, and know that it's going to be emotionally and mentally draining. And she's going to have to be fighting some of those coping mechanisms that include binge eating when she's with that person. So once you're aware of your emotional triggers and the things that are causing you to overeat or indulge in unhealthy habits, you really have to address it in a healthy way. Additionally, if you have any underlying mental health issues, or if you even think that you might be suffering from depression, anxiety, anything like that, if you don't address that and get professional help and get counseling or medication before you attempt a fat loss phase, honestly, it is just going to be messy. It's going to trip you up. And of course, taking care of your health and losing some weight can absolutely be a therapeutic part of your journey to heal yourself. But if you skip those other parts of the process, unfortunately, I think you may just end up circling back. And I have multiple clients. Actually, I think now that I'm thinking of it, I think 80 to 90% of my clients are actually working with a mental health counselor, psychiatrist, or other type of mental health support, in addition to the work that they're doing with me. And that's something that we collaborate on. And if anything comes up that is not something that I am, is within my scope of practice to address, I make sure that they reach out to their mental health professional to schedule a session and tackle that issue with them. But if you don't address your underlying issues and start working on yourself, no amount of weight loss is going to make life better for you in any way. Your mental health is so important. And if you have not addressed it, then now is the time. Number 8, finally, let's talk about consistency and commitment. You're ready to start a fat loss phase when you can really visualize yourself committing to these healthy habits and not just seeing it as a short-term solution. You know that you're going to be able to create consistency for the long term. And it doesn't mean you're going to be in a fat loss phase for the long term, but you just see yourself getting where you want to go, being able to maintain it because, again, you understand the process and working your way towards the ultimate goal of being able to eat intuitively, not needing to track your food, not needing to be as diligent, because you've done the work to get there. And you have to be diligent during that fat loss phase. But if you build the habits beforehand in maintenance at that higher weight, then when you get to the lower weight, ideally it's going to be easier for you. And you'll know that you're ready for that consistency, for that commitment, for that becoming your identity as someone who lives a healthy lifestyle, when you can just picture yourself waking up each day and that is just part of your daily routine, part of who you are. It doesn't feel like you're having to pretend to be someone different. And I will say I've been that person where I was not someone who worked out consistently for most of my adult life until my 30s. And now it's so crazy to me that my alarm goes off, I wake up, I go through my morning routine, my workout is absolutely part of that morning routine. It doesn't even occur to me to not do a workout. If I am not doing a weightlifting workout, then I'm either doing yoga or some sort of mobility or stretching routine, and I'm going for a walk. All of these things that I had to be very intentional about and force myself to do in the beginning have simply become an organic piece of who I am. But you have to go through that process of being intentional, seeing what works for you, seeing what you enjoy, seeing what causes more stress and anxiety for you, and being willing to kiss a few frogs along the way to create this lifestyle, which I call your Feel Your Best formula, the formula for feeling your best. That is the goal. And, being mentally ready, being physically ready, these are all aspects of a successful weight loss journey. And it's important to have a solid understanding of how fitness and nutrition work. And if you don't understand that, if you don't truly understand how food works in your body, how weightlifting works, how cardio works, and how all of those things work together to support your health and wellness, then you really want to be working with someone who can guide you with that knowledge, and also a healthcare professional to ensure that you're losing weight in a safe and healthy way if you have any underlying health and wellness issues. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and maybe it made you think twice if you were thinking of diving into a weight loss program, that maybe, stop, take a breath, slow your roll, look around, decide where you are, decide what you need to do, decide which of those items on the list you really need to address before you enter a weight loss phase. And I'll just review them. Number 1, let's hope that you're motivated. Number 2, you've got to understand the process, the method with which you are going to enter a calorie deficit. Number 3, having realistic expectations of what that journey is going to look like. Number 4, having a positive mindset and a solution-focused attitude. Number 5, you have to be willing to make change. Expecting to get different results by doing the same thing that you've always done is, they say that's the definition of insanity. And number 6, having the proper support system. Number 7, making sure that you've supported your mental health. And number 8, committing to that consistency and having that long-term view that you are doing this for the long term and you don't want to end up back where you were, and you're willing to commit to figuring out how to maintain this lifestyle. So that's it. 8 signs that you are ready to start a fat loss phase. I would love to hear from you what you thought of this episode. If you want to hear more episodes like this, then please let me know, and I will see you on next week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Feel Your Best Formula podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check the episode details for my new listener starter guide, and any additional resources mentioned in the episode can also be found in the show notes on my website. You can always find me on Instagram at Macros with Lil, and for more healthy lifestyle tips, recipes, and information on my one-to-one and group coaching services, make sure to check out my website. All the links can be found below. If you know someone else who is ready to start building their formula for feeling their best, please share the love and send them a link to the podcast. I hope you found today's episode helpful, and I'll see you back here next week for a brand new one.